Welcome to the Not So Intellectual podcast. We've been away for a little bit, but we're back. We're here live.
We're back.
We're here live from AnimeExpo. It's been a little bit good, a little bit of bad, a couple of things we're going to talk about that we've experienced, and hopefully they get their shit together later on if they decide to, they want to do a better job at managing
Yeah, they need to get on
their
top of that
events.
shit. So anime conventions, if you're not aware, are usually fan run, and I think Anime Expo has its own like company around it. But like as far as the people who are doing all the legwork, all the people in the vests with the little walkie-talkie and the little T-shirt on, a lot of those people are volunteers. So in some ways, they don't have to give a fuck, and some of them do not.
Yeah, the
And it's definitely one of those things where people sign up for stuff, they don't realize the burden they're getting into, and then they're burned out before the first day is even over. And this thing is enormous.
There was an hour and 45-minute wait to get inside, not to mention that there was another line to get your badge. So
Well, yeah, you pick up your
you pick up your
badge.
badge, you wait in line for that one. That one, we ended up going on Friday.
Yeah,
Like there was like a pre-show thing going on, and you can pick up your passes since that Thursday. But we picked up our passes on Friday, and we got a little taste of what we were going to be having to deal with for the rest of
yeah,
the weekend, and that shit sucked.
yeah.
Understandable.
And this is your first anime convention, right?
This is my first Anime Expo. Yeah,
This have you been to smaller
I mean
conventions,
we've
anime
been to
conventions?
our
Yeah,
the
but that's a little bit different. Like the Kamikaze
yeah
is like the light. It's like Comic Con light. And Comic Con and I think Anime Expo are probably equal. And no, Comic Con's worse.
oh
Comic
okay.
Con's way worse as
Just because
far
it's like
as
good
like,
luck even stepping inside or
yeah, you can barely get tickets. Remember the
yeah
guy
that's
who was
true.
talking about his friend? The only reason why he got to go is because his friend
Yeah, we had a
had
Uber
extra
or
ticket.
not an Uber. We had a Lyft driver earlier this week, and he was talking about how he got his Comic Con tickets by
Just
him
being,
just being a friend.
yeah, he had a good friend who gave him a ticket, but so it's not worse as in like it's a bad con. As far as I hear, it's just one of those things where if you can't deal with giant crowds and waiting in line forever for something, don't go.
Yeah,
And I have been told by people like, "Oh, go to Comic Con, go down there to San Diego, get a hotel, hang out in San Diego, wear your cosplay, and go hang out there and get your photos taken." But I'm like, eh. And they were also saying like you don't have to have tickets to go to some of the events because the same way, I think this is a LA thing because they didn't do this on the East Coast where you pay to go to the convention and then all the other events you gotta pay separate to go to. Like that's bullshit.
yeah, that was another thing. There's ticketed events at the event,
So you got the convention that you're
so
paying.
you pay to be able to be inside the convention.
Mhm.
There's some events that aren't
They have
ticketed,
panels. They have
but
plenty of panels.
you have to either be in line 2 hours early before the actual panel
Yeah,
starts,
depending on the panel,
and
depending
good
on who's
luck
there.
if a premier pass person has
Oh
them.
yeah.
If a premier pass people take on all the seats, then you're
Fuck
fucked.
you.
That's it.
Yeah.
All that waiting in line was for nothing.
So they have you can buy a 1 day pass. I think you can buy a 2 day pass.
4 day
And then you
pass is
can
what
do
we
a
ended up
4 day
getting,
pass.
but
And then you can get the 4 day pass and you pay an extra whatever amount and you can go to the pre show night. So then it's technically a 5 day pass. And then you have on top of that
the VIP
the
premiership.
premiere pass.
Yeah,
And I was telling Rick earlier, I'm like, okay, how about we don't do that? Because why did everybody else pay for this convention? If you're going to offer people priority access to things when all the rest of us, if it weren't for the rest of us, those motherfuckers wouldn't even have a convention to go to. But now they pay the extra $125. They get to go get in the shit for free, even if they don't care about going. So there was a panel we wanted to go to. There were barely any people in line that did not have an orange badge, which is the regular 4-day pass. And they're looking for premiere people first. And it's just like, ain't no premiere people in the line. Just let the people in who are here. Like, these people showed up. They're the ones who want to see the panel. They're probably the ones who actually give a fuck about the panel. And then it's a trip because most panels, by the halfway point, half the people in there and left because they got bored or
Yeah, or they're trying to
they
get into
trying to
the
get
next
to
panel.
another thing. So it's just like, why have all of this system just to have empty seats halfway through?
The
Let the
thing,
people in who show up first. First come, first serve.
yeah,
And then call it a thing. And then we had an issue today because we got to one panel we wanted to go to.
yeah.
And primarily because we couldn't fucking find the line. Why? Because Anime Expo decided it would be a fabulous idea to have people line up outdoors for a panel that's inside upstairs. And that means you got to walk back into the convention in a line all the way upstairs, through the convention center, through the hallway of the mass of people who don't even know that the line was there, so you can get into this thing. So, how would you know that the line is outside? There are no signs outside of the thing. There's no information in the booklet next to the events. There's no information on the app that they encouraged everyone to download. It was on the map. But the thing is, you look at the map, why the fuck would you know that's what that means? And why would you even go straight there? So some yokel just was like, yeah, it'll be great. We'll just put it on the map. They'll figure it out. And it's just like, no. How about you don't put people who spent their money and time? You know, people plan this shit for the whole fucking year. And they're making their cosplay, they're spending their checks. They know that the primary audience for these types of events are people in age group who are getting fucked over regularly financially because of job market and everything.
What have you?
So the same
Yeah.
people who are suffering from the problems are the same people making these decisions. So like, why would you create a situation for people to miss out on the content that you provided? It doesn't make
No.
sense. And it's like, if that was the idea to make sure that the panels didn't get overrun, it didn't work because the few people that did find out through word of mouth all lined up and then the panel fills up.
So I'm not sure if this was like a spur of the moment thought to do this, or like I'm not sure what happened because on Saturday we didn't have a problem getting
Yeah,
into
we got into our
panels.
panels no
We
problem on
lined up,
Saturday.
boom, we were in. But now
Sunday,
today, Sunday, they totally flipped the script, and it would have been very helpful if there was some type of sign saying to come inside to be able to participate in this panel, you have to go outside.
or say like refer to map and they show the
And
picture of
yeah,
the map on the
there
sign.
was no
So,
sign.
yeah,
Every time you'd have a question, you
no
referred
one
to the
knows.
map,
No, it wasn't
and
even referred to the map. One person told us about the map,
yeah,
and it was after the whole day went by.
yeah.
And everyone else was like, oh, you have to line up outside. No other information. And then what they would tell us is just like, look, I don't live at the convention center. I don't know what the fuck you're talking about.
Yeah.
Of course, that's not the response I gave them, but I'm just like, where is that? So it's just basically like a giant fuck you attendee.
Yeah.
Screw the fact that you spent probably a month's rent's worth of time and everything. So
So
not us,
there's
but people. There are a lot
yeah.
of people who miss out on stuff.
So there that's another thing. There was people just lining up because they didn't know that fact that
Yeah,
there was pre-lined lines to get
somewhere
inside
else.
somewhere else. So there was just people just lining up willy-nilly,
Well, there are people
and
lining up in places where it made sense. You line up outside of the convention
but
center.
it was
Every
to
convention
nothing.
works like that.
And Lisa had to literally tell an attendant that there was a long ass line of people waiting to get inside of a panel that had already started that was just ready for people to come in, but no one said anything.
Yeah, and when I
It was
told
just
them,
really
and I'm
not managed to the
yeah,
point that you would think
well, when I told them, they didn't
an
even give a
expo
fuck.
like
They were just like,
this,
"Oh, well,
yeah,
people." This was the exact conversation. Hey, is this has this panel started? We wanted to go to it, but we were lined up over here, and what's happening? Like, is it full? What do we do?
yeah,
And the guy goes, "Oh, you got to talk to her." So it's a guy standing here in a vest with a walkie-talkie, and there's a woman standing at the door, and they both kind of have this look on their face like, I don't want to deal with this. I don't want to deal with you. And it's just like, okay, I'm sorry if your day is going rough. It's a lot of people here today. It's really busy. It's stressful. We're stressed the fuck out because we're can't figure out anything. So I know you're stressed because you work here. So the empathy is there, but it all went out the window because the response was to my question, is this the panel? They said, yeah. And I'm like, okay, do you have space? And they're like, yeah, you can go in. And I'm like, hey, hang on. Let me ask you something. And I'm like, where were we supposed to line up? And the girl there had no answers. And the initial guy in the vest had no answers. And then another person walks over. They had no answers. Another woman. And then one guy who just happened to be passing by, who was also working in the convention, was like, oh, it's on the map. And I'm like, dude, why would I look at the map to figure out where to line up for a panel when typically you come to the panel room a half hour or an hour before the panel to line up? Where does it say that? I was like, you have no signs outside of the panels. There's no information on the pages inside of the app. How would we know this? And I was like, is there a way? And I told him, I said, this morning I got an update for the app, which means that somebody's managing the app live. So
mm-hmm.
that means that y'all can fix this. You need to talk to somebody and tell them, put this information on the panels so people know where they need to go. Because you can't wait. You can't, like, there's no, like, you can't expect somebody to go look in a dictionary for a word that they don't know exists.
Yeah.
Some people look through stuff and they find it, but most people don't sit around and read a dictionary. So that's exactly what they were asking people to do. So it's just like
My
the attitude of like apathy, and then the fact that they were just like, well, you should have known. It was just like all
yeah,
of the
I just feel like if they're putting all this money into advertisements, into this fucking useless paper, these little
yeah,
pamphlets, they can at least make some type of sign on the walls, wherever,
yeah,
outside of the doors, saying where exactly
yeah.
you need to be in order to get
There are
inside this thing.
posters up. There's these weird posters on metal like frames on things that mean nothing. They're just pictures of anime characters selling merchandise and shit. So there's pictures of shit everywhere. But there are
Cool,
no
yes, very very
posters
cool and
with
everything,
information.
but if if your machine isn't running right, everything's gonna start to buckle over.
Mhm.
And it sucks because for me, I would have thought that AnimeExpo, it's been going on for a while. It has this following. Everyone's always saying you have to go, you have to go. For me, this being my first year, it's kind of a letdown
Yeah.
because literally second day, I wasn't able to do nothing that I really wanted to do. We were able to go walk around, take a few pictures here and there,
Yeah.
but
But that's not
yeah,
why we
that's
came
not
to the
what we're there for.
convention. We
We're there
sat there.
for panels, or we're there
Yeah.
for like other shit to see the events that we wanted to see, but we weren't able to do it. Yeah, it kind of sounds like we're bitching, but we just like everyone else, we paid good money to fucking
Yeah.
go up to this
And there are
shit.
a lot of people who missed out. And that was the thing with the panel that we were trying to see, where the people were just really apathetic about what was going on. I'm like, okay, and another thing, there's a long line of people waiting to get into this panel. And they had no idea that it started yet. and they have no idea where they're supposed to line up. And the guy goes, ugh, well, people line up wherever they feel like lining up. And I'm like, well, if you know that's the case, and you see a long ass line of people standing outside of the build of the
A
space
place they're not supposed to
that they
be
think,
lining up.
yeah,
Fucking
maybe
say
you should open
something.
your mouth. Exactly. And be
You
like,
you work
hey,
there. You're part of the
what are
whole
you
fucking
doing?
team. Go up to the
Exactly.
line of people and
And
tell
ask
them,
them, what
"Oh,
are they
you
waiting for?
guys, yeah, disperse or fucking something."
Well, I mean, they could have said, hey, what are you waiting for? Be like, oh, we're in line for the manga drawing panel. Oh, well, it started already,
And
but
you
we
can
have
enter through the
space.
side.
Yeah, let's
But no
go.
one did anything.
No, they didn't
They
care. They
they
didn't
didn't give a
care to
shit.
tell
They're
those
just
people. And that family of people that actually told me that that's what they were in line for did not make it in. Because I know they didn't tell them. He probably stood there at the end
yeah, all
with
the
a little
people that
group
I
of
saw at
people.
the line that were waiting to get inside this panel, the one that we're talking about, the manga drawing, how to use tools, manga, the tools to for manga, whatever it
Hmm.
was. I saw no one
None
from
of them
that
came
line.
in. There were a lot of people who came in after us, but none of those people were in that line. And we recognized them because we stood there with them like idiots for a little while. And it
Yeah,
was just like, and the only reason
everyone's
why we
asking the
figured
same
out,
goddamn question. What's this line
yeah,
for?
it was funny because there were a few people in the line who didn't even know what the line was for. They were just in
Yeah,
line. And I'm like, see, this is how people get cattled into
I
bullshit.
understand why they were doing it though, because just like what we experienced today, we couldn't get into anything. So anything
Yeah, true.
was
It was
worth
just
it,
like, I
worth the
want to
line.
see something because. So it's just like, it's good to know that we weren't alone as far as being like, well, I couldn't get into the panel I wanted to go
Yeah.
to, so I may as well go to something.
So
And
there's at at least there is an entertainment hall.
yeah,
That was cool. You can draw with there's an art wall that you can put your
yeah,
like
you
little
can do some
drawings on. You
doodles.
can play different types of games there. You can play like
Yeah, they have arcade
Switch, the
games.
arcade games, the DDR,
Hmm.
PC games, PS4, what
Somewhere
have
they
you.
have,
All the consoles that you
somewhere they
think
have board games.
are
I don't
there.
know where those are, but
Yeah, it's I know where it is. I don't mind going
we
there
could try
tomorrow.
it
We could
out
try it
tomorrow if,
tomorrow.
when we hit a gap.
But yeah, that's our trip so far. It's been high.
Yesterday was good.
Yesterday was
Yesterday
good.
was good.
Yesterday was a
Today
high.
was
Today was the
very
low.
disappointing.
Definitely. We'll see how tomorrow brings.
But
But when we came back, I finally was able to catch Hood Adjacent. It's a show that's on Comedy Central. Um, I've been wanting to watch it. It kind of looks like another Chappelle show clone that that Comedy
a
Central's trying.
wannabe,
Yeah,
yeah, they're
they're
like,
trying to
oh, we got a
capture
black guy.
the spark again,
Hmm.
and
We need new black guys.
it's interesting, but I just feel like it's trying to be Chappelle show way too much.
I feel like it's trying to he's trying to do something that is interesting, but I feel like he's missing a few marks and he's throwing people who are marginalized within a marginalized community under the bus for comedy's sake in some ways. And like I said, I told Rick, I was just like, I feel like the show won't last that long because he's hitting some buttons that are. Here's the thing, Comedy Central is not a network that particularly panders to a black audience. It's 50-50. It's the black audience is growing a lot. They fucked up when they canceled Larry Wilmore's show, but they show a lot of Kevin Hart stuff, and they have Black Adjacent. They did Legends of Chamberlain Heights. They have some stuff. It's interesting because Comedy Central is okay with having shows that perpetuate black stereotypes,
Hmm.
but they're not okay with a show that discusses issues within the community and how we can solve it. People
Yeah.
got their feathers ruffled because they were talking about political shit. They didn't like it, so they canceled it. At least that's how I see it.
I would like to know what the ratings were because I've never really looked up the
It was
ratings
hard to
for it.
watch the show during the time that it was supposed to be on, but I used to watch it on Hulu. I would
Yeah,
like
I would
binge
like to.
watch it on Hulu.
I would really love to see. Would like to know
What
if
the ratings were.
yeah, what the rating were, what the ratings were. The full spectrum
Well,
online and
I
on
do know the
TV.
ratings went down after they made them change the show format. I say
Yeah,
they
that was
made them
another
change
thing.
it. They went on a break. The show had a specific format when it first started, and they had a panel at the end of the show that lasted from the like I guess it's like three commercial breaks
Mm-hmm.
in a show, and it lasted from the second commercial break to the third one.
Mm-hmm.
So I can't time it out in my head that timing, but it was a decent amount of time for different three or four different panelists along with the host to have a discussion about whatever the topic of the day was. They eliminated that, and the few times they did have some kind of panel, it was literally just like people bantering. It had no constructive, it wasn't constructive, it wasn't valuable. It was just kind of like, hey, I'm a comedian and I would talk about something of substance, but
Mm-hmm.
as you can see, my hands are tied behind my back. Like that's, it was just like very, very blatant, and it just went south.
Yeah,
And it's basically they killed the show when they put a gag order on them talking about shit that made people of privilege uncomfortable.
maybe.
And at least, like I said, that's how I see it, and I just feel like I'm right about that shit. And
It's not far from the realm of
until somebody
possibility.
tells me I'm wrong, I'm going with that
Mm-hmm.
shit because when you speak the truth, people who want the
Are very
lies
quick
to
to want to shut
stay,
you up. Yeah.
yeah, they will come and kill you to keep you from telling the truth. So they killed that show. But
So real quick,
either way,
back to
Hood
the hood
adjacent.
adjacent part. At
Yeah.
the end of the first episode, he's there's this game that he played with a couple of drunk people at Mardi Gras. It looked like Mardi Gras,
Oh yeah.
and it was called
Ruin your life.
Ruin Your Life.
This was
And
actually funny. This part.
it was interesting. Some of the parts of the show were
Well, I
interesting,
mean,
but it
like
was kind of
the end of it was
yeah.
funny.
So he asked these people four questions: what their names were, what their age was, what they did for what for their for work, whatever, for
Mhm.
school, and he asked them to look into the camera and say the N word. There's this one girl, drunk lady who literally didn't miss the didn't miss a beat and just fucking said it,
And she
and
just jumped. She
she
sounded like she was waiting all day for permission to say what she been thinking, what's been boiling in her blood.
and
And
then
she
there
said it.
was
And they put the little stamp on her face, ruin your life.
yeah, ruined life and
Life ruined.
life ruined. And then there was these two Irish dudes that the host of the show got to that point with of the questionnaire with them, and it was really funny to look in their faces. They looked at each other and they're like, "Nah, that's wrong." And basically, they won that little part of the
Mhm.
game show, and
If they got it right, you know it's wrong. You don't say it. Never.
and that kind of led me and Lisa into an interesting discussion about the N word. I've never really felt comfortable saying the N word. Maybe when I was in high school, but everyone's a little shit in high school. But
Yeah,
anyways, um,
your kids.
Lisa brought up a good point. If if there was any slang or how'd you say it? If
Well,
it
you said that they never use in your culture spick is never used in the same way that nigger has been changed to nigga, and I it was like no, there's no version of a term of endearment using the term. But I was telling Rick, I was beginning to tell him,
there's no such thing as spica.
well, it's more of Hispanics in America have always had the identity of being Mexican first. It doesn't matter where you're from,
Yeah,
you're Mexican. So that's really
unless you go to
offensive.
Mexico and you're gonna be labeled as
Well,
American.
as
But yeah,
far as
that's
like in
not to
America,
yeah
if you're a brown person who speaks Spanish, people automatically just you're Mexican.
sure
It's not okay. It's not right. It's fucked up.
yeah.
But because there's a whole plethora of countries,
Hmm.
it's like how Africa is treated like Africa's a country
Not a continent.
and it's a fucking
Yeah.
continent. Same thing with South America and Mexico. Like
Hmm.
they're technically entities of
Some type of
themselves.
Mexican.
But you know,
Yeah.
but you could be Colombian and they'll be like, you're Mexican.
Yeah.
So even though Hispanic people have to battle that issue, there's no other name for Hispanic people. You just get labeled Mexican if you speak
And
Spanish. But
yeah.
for black people in America, before the 1900s, we didn't have a different name.
Mm.
Before black people were brought to this continent through the slave trade, we were not called black. We were not called whatever this thing and this thing. We were whatever tribal identity was. So my last name's Thompson. If the tribe was called Thompson, I'm a Thompson. That's just what it is. And when black people were brought here, snatched all the culture away, your property now, this is what we're gonna call you. And they called us niggers.
Mm-hmm.
And the name comes from some word that's supposed to mean black and all that stuff, and then everything else. But either way, that's the name, that's the title that we got from white people.
Mm-hmm.
And we had been called that for 500 years. It's like about 500 years of documented slavery of Africans in America.
Mm-hmm.
So for 500 years, we were called niggers. And then around the 1900s, we started being called colored or whatever sulfur version
Or
of
whatever more
that
insulting
name.
version that they came up with
Well, no,
during the
it's
50s
like
and
over
all that
time,
stuff.
it's
Yeah.
as far as the language of labeling people. It's gone from niggers to colored to black, and now, depending on who you talk to, African American, because a lot of us have issues in the duality of
Yeah.
that statement, and also it's this weird thing that I don't know who came up with it, but I feel like white people want to call you African American more to make themselves feel better because in their mind, black is dirty.
Mm-hmm.
It's crazy. People are crazy. Anyway.
So what we were talking about earlier with the N word is that I've never understood why specifically rap artists want to use it so much in their music
Mm-hmm.
and then get angry at their white audiences for saying the words that they say in their music.
I don't think it's the rap artists as much as this like
No,
black
because
fans
but no,
getting mad at
but
other
regardless, the
fans for
person's
stuff.
still black. They don't. I'm pretty sure they won't feel comfortable
Yeah,
seeing that
if they're
word or
white
hearing
fan,
that
like if
word.
Kanye's white fans was like, "What's up, my nigga?" He'd probably be like, "I don't like that." Maybe.
So my thing is like, okay, you know where this word comes from.
Yeah.
You know the history of it. Why do you continue to use it?
And that's what I was trying to explain to
So
you.
that's
Is
what.
the
But my
yeah
thing is like like you said earlier, the word spick, we've never really used it as a term of endearment, none of that.
yeah
None of that because we know where it comes from, we know
yes
how it's used and all this other stuff.
yes
And what you were saying was is
black people, the title for a black person for almost 500 years in America was nigger.
mm-hmm.
So black people didn't have, they didn't bring us here and then teach us English and taught us how to spell and speak properly. So you have people taking dialects and patois and everything and
Yeah, yeah.
attempting to mimic the sounds that these people are making. So we start calling ourselves what they call us because we had no other language to talk to each other. Like,
Okay.
you have a bunch of people coming from different regions with different dialects and languages, and then they beat you for using your own language. So you have to either not talk at all or you have to use their language. So in that, it's like how when you listen to people from different countries, especially the more rural places in Mexico and throughout South America, and they speak English, and it's like, what? What are you saying? Huh?
Yeah.
I don't understand you. And it's really hard because they're attempting to sound like you through their accent. So, nigga kind of came that way. And we started calling ourselves that. And it wasn't a hateful way, but it was just like that's the only language we had to communicate that person. And then it just kind of went that way. And it's like over time, yeah, nobody wants to be called that by those people.
Mm-hmm.
But if that's all I can call myself right now, I can call me that.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't want to hear you call me that.
Mm-hmm.
So it was more of the thing of like, yeah, people took it back because it was used to insult us and degrade us. But it was a way of taking it back. And this is the conflict people have. It's because they don't think about the full history. They think about fragments. And it's the same thing with like how there's been a lot of articles and discussions about nuance.
Mm-hmm.
And nigga has nuance to it, which people want to forget.
Yeah.
They don't like they don't like nuance because it requires thought and consideration. But there's nuance, and I don't feel like it's something that we should perpetuate in pop culture.
Mm-hmm.
Like I was saying to Rick one day before, and I was just like, there are some jokes. The show Hood Adjacent bugs me a little bit because there's a few things where he's touching base on that I feel like those jokes are not for mixed company. And it's one of those things where it's like there's nuance to these subjects that has to be explained to someone from outside of the culture. If they are not at a place where they want to learn about our culture, they're going to take what we did and it's going to get used in a way that's not proper
Mm-hmm.
and not acceptable.
Mm-hmm.
And that's nigga. Nigga's been taken out of its nuance and out of the circles that it's supposed to be in and put into pop culture. And now everybody and their mama says it. And now kids that aren't even black say it. And kids in New York call each other that. You go to Hispanic communities, they're calling each other nigga.
Mm-hmm.
You got white kids in the suburbs, my nigga, my nigga. And they want to talk to black people and say nigga. This is the thing. When you take it out of the context of the culture, you eliminate the people who can teach it. Where do they learn this?
Mm-hmm.
And then you add the error, the obvious white privilege factor where people don't want to learn nothing from nobody that they think they're above.
Mm-hmm.
So if you get people who are actually racist listening to these hip hop songs and they think because they listen to the hip hop song it's okay now, and they want to have fun, and they think they're not as racist as they are.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just like they have their prejudice where black people aren't important enough to listen to, but they want to be a part of the fun. So they use a nigga all over the place.
Mm-hmm.
And then you get the ones that get Super Bowl and they start calling you nigger. And it's just like there are people who will say, oh, what's the difference? There's a difference. But the point is that we shouldn't even be discussing what the difference is because it should have never gone there.
Yeah.
And it's always disgusted me that it's been a public thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like, my grandmother would look out the window at actual, like, dudes that were like drug dealers and gangbangers walking up and down the street.
Mm-hmm.
When those people started moving into the neighborhood. Like, it was like, put it as, you know how you live somewhere and it's like you got that mom or that grandma that love her grandbaby.
Mm-hmm.
So these motherfuckers get out of jail or they move them from wherever they lived because their mom was worried. And now they live in a neighborhood with all these families that own property that are trying to do right by themselves. They move in their shitty nephews and cousins into these neighborhoods to give them a better life when they know that shit's not gonna work.
Mm-hmm.
So neighborhood took a toll because of that. But I remember her when that stuff started happening. She would look out the window and she'd be like, oh, them old niggas out there, this and the third. I never heard that term unless somebody was talking about somebody who was not, if they were actually talking about riffraff, that was a nigger.
Mm-hmm.
And not Nigger, nigger, like nigga,
Mm-hmm.
but that's just because of the dialect.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I mean. It's just like there are some things you say in mixed company that you say that you wouldn't say there. So, but yeah, it's so that's what I mean by like some things are for mixed company, some things are not. It's like how you don't discuss family issues in front of mixed company. You discuss them in front of family. Same thing. It's like this is a black thing that's very sensitive, that has a lot of nuance. How about you not parade it in front of people who will just take it and run?
I feel like it's getting kind of worse because now, or specifically in rap music today, um, I
What's
feel like it it's become a word that they just use for everything.
yeah?
For
The
they
pillow's a
took
nigga. Your
yeah
shoes a nigga.
everything. Every other word
The
is
dog
the
is a
N word, and
nigga.
it's kind of sad because there's some diamonds in the rough out there. There's great artists right now that fall into that traps too. Still, like
Well, it's a part of
childish.
the language.
I understand that, but I feel like when Childish Gambino makes a song like his new album, the stuff from his new album, compared to the stuff that he kind of like the last album, like two albums before, where it was very much just like these regular trap music dudes.
So he's gone the way of that,
No,
trying to fit in, or was he doing
I
it
think
before?
he was reveling in. I don't want to. I don't like doing that. I don't like speaking for someone. But for me, as a listener, as a
Mm,
fan of his music, I felt like he was just kind of reveling in the group that he was in.
what do you mean?
He was very much sounding like, how can I put this? Like in that one song with what's his name? Chance the Rapper.
Mm-hmm.
And the music video is them in the at a beach, and every other word in that song is the N word.
Okay.
Compared to now, with his new stuff, where it sounds like the Parliament psychedelic. What's her name?
I thought Chance the Rapper was more clean. I
He
haven't
no
really
no no
listened
no.
to him like that.
If you were to listen to that song, you'd be like, "Fuck, who the fuck is
Who
this
is
guy?"
this? What is
So that's
this?
what I'm saying.
Oh,
It's like,
okay.
yeah, they kind of fall into that trap.
Yeah.
That's why I
But
like
what
to
is the
say that.
song about? Is the song like
I don't know because I
you
didn't
can't
like
deal?
it. I couldn't deal with it. No, because it's like, okay, yeah, I understand what you're doing here. You're kind of going, you're riffing, but when every other word is the N word,
What are we hearing?
what are
What
we
is
hearing? What are
yeah.
you trying to say? What's the message?
Yeah.
And that's what I'm saying now. It's like there's no message anymore.
Okay.
It's
But this was
become
before. This
this
isn't
is
now.
before. This now it I love his stuff. Not totally in love with it, but there's some songs where I'm like, yeah, fuck, this
He
is dope.
he went more with
Yeah,
his artistic
yeah.
self instead of
Like
trying to fit
Hawaii, the
in.
last album that he
Mhm.
did, that one was fucking good too.
Okay.
That was very artistic. He actually explored himself.
Yeah.
That was fucking dope. But anyways,
Well, it seems like he's evolving, but I think definitely people they start up and they're like, I want to do rap, and they're like, okay, well, I'm gonna do the thing that corporate has proven sells records. Like even
but then like Kendrick Lamar, there's some songs of his that I really like.
and there's
But
a
then
few
there's
of them
other
that you're
songs
like,
where it's like, all right, I understand. Yes, it's that whole gangster mentality,
yeah,
gangster paradise, blah 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 blah.
yeah,
Yeah, I didn't grow up in that life, so I'm not about it.
can't
But
relate.
I don't understand this popularization, this push to continue this negative stereotype.
Well, my I think my issue is the
There you go.
romanticizing of these lifestyles. Like it was funny. Rick was like, "What are you watching?" But we watched this. There's this video. The guy who does a oh my
Yeah,
god, and he roasts people on the video. So this person, what was her name?
something stacks.
Cat
Cat
Stacks.
stacks.
That's what it was. So
Yeah,
I
yeah.
was like, who the hell is this Cat Stacks person? What is this?
Yeah, 4 minutes we're gonna go ahead and finish up with this final
Damn, they
thought
put a
here.
timer on me. Shit.
Yeah, that's
So anyway, Cat Stacks apparently is I don't know what she does exactly, but in the video she's trying to twerk. She's really skinny, like so skinny. And she looks really young, and I'm like, who is this person? She has a fake ass, fake tits, but she's like super like rail thin, and
Raelian.
yeah,
Yeah,
Raelian. And apparently she all right, so I have this thing where I'm like, oh shit, you went through some stuff. So she had a hard ass life. So that explains why she looks kind of rough in
Mm.
that video. Also, the life she had, she was sex trafficked when she was 14. So, that is a fucked up life.
Mm.
And she's working to get her shit together, but she's still really young and she got young girl, she got young head mentality. And then she's also pretty hood. So those two influences come together, perfect storm. It could be a mess.
Yeah.
So hopefully she get her life together. She put her money away and raise her kids and go forth and be the person she was meant to be. But it was just interesting to watch her story. And it's like she even said she doesn't like it with people glorifying these lifestyles. Like, why are you glorifying prostitution? Why are you glorifying being a hoe? It's not fun.
Mm.
It's not cute. It's not cool. There's nothing to look forward to. You could fucking die.
Mm.
She was not playing games with that. And I feel the same way with gangster mentality. It's just like, why are you still giving black men hope that the lifestyle of a gangster is the life that you should live? It's even a life. Like, that's a great way to die.
Mm.
It's like, what is it? Pinocchio. And they have some, fuck it. I can't,
Mm-hmm.
it just popped in my head, but it's like this thing when they went to Treasure Island.
Mm.
Yeah, that's the same shit.
Mm.
Yeah, like they're all perpetuating. They're all telling people Treasure Island's great. That's why you
Mm.
turn to a fucking donkey.
That's why you turn into a jackass.
I
So yeah, that's it's something that we hope
don't know.
people catch on to, and I feel like that's I feel like that's a never-ending cycle of abuse. As your child, you're showing all this media where it's like all the bad guys are cool, and
Mhm.
they're all this other stuff, blah 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 blah. As you grow up, you start to listen to the music that you see that those people listen to, that
Mhm.
glorify their actions, and
And then you see people
and
who are
it's done at a global
perceived as
scale. That's
successful.
yeah, that's another thing. It's done at a global scale because even in Mexico, there's such thing as narco corridos, where it is essentially gangster ranchero music. And
Which is so bizarre to me.
well, yeah, but it makes sense. It makes sense in my mind because it's the same thing. You're perpetuating the same trauma, not trauma, the same
It is trauma.
it is, I guess,
You're
right?
perpetuating trauma against among. You're perpetuating trauma put against innocent people for your own personal gain.
Yeah.
It's
So
terrible.
I just feel like we could do a lot better as a society.
It's so weird because that music is so jaunty,
Yeah.
and then
It
I was
sounds
told,
so it
I'm like,
sounds
oh, it
so
sounds
jolly,
so
sounds dope,
jolly and
and then
jaunty,
you
and
really
then,
listen to the lyrics and it's like,
well,
"Oh,
I
you want to
am
talk about
not.
fucking putting a motherfucker in acid
Yeah,
and just letting his bones to like eat it. Okay,
yeah.
crazy."
So yeah, he broke that down for me, and I was
Mm.
like, oh, that's bizarre. Cause like, why would you? Okay,
So
I
yeah,
guess.
tomorrow we're gonna see how Monday treats us. Hopefully, NMEXPO is will be better.
Yeah.
I'm a little apprehensive. I'm not apprehensive, but I'm a little bit like on the fence about that part.
And I have put it in my head that I shouldn't be too surprised
Yeah.
if I can't go to something.
But we will try to do another podcast soon.
Fuck yeah.
Um yeah. As you can hear, we have a new outro and a new intro. Be sure to follow us on Twitter, Instagram. You can follow Lisa at Ludic Lee on Twitter and Instagram. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at NSI Rick.
NSI.
Until next time, this is Rick
And Lisa.
telling you to be happy and do what you want. See you guys next time.